Hello, my people. Okay, today we're doing a review. I haven't done one in a while, and I've been really wanting to do a review on this movie. So bear with me. This is the first time I'm doing it like this. Today we talk about The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. This is a '90s movie. I really like this movie. I give it a 9 out of 10. Really, I could do a 10 out of 10. I don't. There's no real difference with the point, but yeah, I really like this movie. Is my point. Okay, so let me introduce you to the family. So we got Michael, the husband, and Claire, the wife. Now, they do have a little girl named Emma. Now, the movie starts off with Claire finding out that she's pregnant with her second child. So it's yay. We got to go to the doctor, right? She books an appointment with her doctor. It's a new doctor, a new obstetrician. Is Dr. Mott. She goes in to, get checked up, and Dr. Mott decides that he wants to fill her up. He assaults her on the table. She go home, she's feeling just wrong, just completely violated. And she tells her husband, "Hey, this wasn't no normal checkup. Now, this man was really enjoying feeling me up, and I have a problem with it." So he encourages her to report him, and she does. So when she reports him, there were other women that come forward and say, "Hey, he did the same thing to me." So now charges are being brought up. And what does Dr. Mott do? Dr. Mott commits suicide to avoid jail time, to avoid, you know, consequences. Now we find out that Dr. Mott was married and his wife was pregnant. Enter Mrs. Mott. Mrs. Mott is left to deal with the pieces, right? She meets up with the lawyers. The lawyers tell her that his accounts have been frozen, and because he committed suicide, his life insurance policy is now void. So it essentially left her with nothing. Okay. She goes into premature labor, and unfortunately she loses her child, and they have to perform a hysterectomy, which means that she will not be able to have kids ever. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all gonna hear my dogs in the background because they just won't be quiet. But anyway, Mrs. Mott has now had her hysterectomy. She's laying up watching TV, and she sees Claire's picture on the news. Now, a couple months later, Claire has her baby boy, and they name him Joey. Everything is going good for them. Things are normal, etc. Now, they did hire a special needs man to do work around the house. Solomon is his name. I want y'all to get a visual. This is Solomon. Solomon is a handyman. He fixes things. Now, Michael tells Claire, "Hey, you ain't got to do it by yourself. You trying to get stuff done, build a greenhouse and really do things that you want to do. Why don't you hire a nanny? That way you got more time on your hands." So she don't feel comfortable with the nannies that she's interviewed. Enter Mrs. Mott. Mrs. Mott shows up and introduces herself as Peyton Flanders. They hit it off immediately. When I say they just click, right? Miss Peyton is everything that you could possibly imagine a great nanny would be. She moves in immediately. And I have to mention, with no references or nothing, she ain't check shit. Background checks are your friend, people. But anyway, she gets along with their little girl, Emma. And she just takes over the responsibilities of Joey. Now, I have to mention that Claire does not know who this woman is, but Ms. Mott know who Claire is. Now, Mrs. Mott / Peyton begins her crusade as far as fucking up their lives. She gets in good with the husband being overly helpful. She gets in good with the little girl. Just doing little things for her because the little girl, Emma, was telling her that there was a little boy bullying her on the playground. So she went and hemmed him up to tell, stop fucking with her. And at night, Peyton / Mrs. Mott decides to breastfeed the baby Joey, at night. So when they wake up in the morning and Claire's trying to breastfeed her baby, he's not eating because he ate last night. But she don't know that, which is a whole violation. But yeah, Peyton / Mrs. Mott is wreaking fucking havoc. See, this is what I be talking about. When somebody enters your life and your life goes to utter shit and you just can't place what the common denominator is as far as what's happened. Like, what changed? I don't understand. Why is all this happening? That one person that just came into your life. That's what's happening. But yeah, Peyton slash Mrs. Mott went to work on dividing the husband and wife. Uh, Claire told Michael that she was going to drop off an important document for his work. And Peyton went in the bag. Peyton slash Mrs. Mott went in her bag to tear it up before she got to FedEx. So she couldn't find the document. And that was important. So he lost an account behind that document that wasn't mailed. Now, it is important to note that Claire's best friend Marlene used to date Michael before she married him. But supposedly there's some water under the bridge. But yeah, I had to mention that because that's going to be important later. Anyway, Solomon, back to Solomon, special needs man. He's fixing stuff up around the house. He inadvertently catches Peyton slash Mrs. Mott breastfeeding Joey. And we have to mention that Mrs. Mott was just a complete fucking asshole to Solomon. You don't be mean to special people. You don't be mean to anybody, but there's a special place in hell for you to just be mean with a person who has intellectual disabilities. So Solomon catches her breastfeeding Joey, and what Mrs. Mott sets it up to tell Claire that Solomon might be doing inappropriate things with Emma, the little girl. So she plants Emma's underwear in Solomon's toolbox, and they send him back to his facility. Now, what they don't know is after they fired Solomon had been lurking around the house. Like, he was watching over the family because he had gotten in his mind that these are my friends and I'm not going to let her hurt my friends. That's what he said. But yeah, so, Mrs. Mott is whispering in Claire's ear, trying to make her think that Marlene, her best friend, is sleeping with Michael. Claire gets home one day and, just has an outburst, accuses Michael of sleeping with Marlene, and it turned out to be a surprise party. So everybody heard that little outburst, including Marlene. After the outburst, Claire and Michael decide, hey, let's go on a family vacation, and we're just going to leave the Peyton behind to just figure things out, like realign with each other. Mrs. Mott hears that, so she goes to rig the greenhouse to, because there's glass at the top, to kill Claire. That was her intent. Now, while all this is happening, Marlene, her best friend, the MVP, goes to work. She goes to research who this woman is, and she finds out that who Mrs. Mott is. She rushes over to try to tell Claire, but Claire wasn't there. She was at the greenhouse at her work. So Mrs. Mott tells Marlene that Claire is in the back in the greenhouse. Marlene rushes to the greenhouse, and the glass from the ceiling falls and kills Marlene. Claire comes home to find her, and she has an asthma attack. So, and I have to mention that Mrs. Mott emptied out all her asthma bottles. So she passed out. They had to hospitalize her. So Michael is distraught that his wife is in the hospital and Marlene is dead. He goes out to the greenhouse to board it up in the pouring rain. And guess Mrs. Mott is right there to try to comfort him. She went outside in a nightgown with nothing under it. I can't show the picture. This is TikTok. And tries to seduce him. Michael says to her, there is only one woman for me. I said, that's right, Michael. You let her know. So she was unsuccessful in seducing the husband. So Claire's all right. She returns from the hospital, but now she's suspicious. So she goes and does her homework. And she does find out that Mrs. Mott is Dr. Mott's wife. She's shocked. She rushes back to the house. She tells, when I say she knocked Mrs. Mott clean over the fucking table, it was amazing. After she knocked her out, she said, you're fired. She said, okay, well, just let me get the kids and I'll go. But yeah, they banish her from the house. Mrs. Mott comes back and she attacks both Michael and Claire. She breaks Michael's legs because she knocks him over the shovel and he falls over the balcony. But guess who came to save the day? Solomon came to save the day. He went to go get the kids and led them up to the attic to get them down the ladder. Mrs. Mott catches them up there, but then she has a showdown with Claire. Claire fakes an asthma attack and then bests Mrs. Mott. She pushes her out of the window with the help of Solomon, because it was Mrs. Mott And they lived happily ever after.